Okay, so fascinating stuff when it comes to real estate. It's not only Americans that are buying real estate here in the U.S., but it's Chinese, with the Chinese economy doing quite well. Many of them are looking to find places to put their money, one of which is in real estate here in the U.S., and one of the top cities in the country where that's being done is right here in Detroit. To talk about all that, I'm joined by Mark Bloom, real estate expert with NetWorth Realty USA. That's networthrealtyusa.com. Mark, thank you for joining us on WILS.
Thank you for having me.
Great having you here. What's your background in real estate?
So I've been working for developers as in-house counsel from the beginning of my career, and then for the last 14 or 15 years, we strictly sell undervalued investment properties to other investors. So we go out and locate assets that are available under market, whether they're already on the market or whether they're not presently available for sale on the open market, and we present those opportunities to other investors. Some of those investors are foreign entities. Some of those foreign entities are Chinese nationals.
Oh, fascinating. So you're an attorney then?
By education only.
Uh-huh. And so how does that work? Have you identified any of these properties in Michigan, or is it down south? Because I know you're based in Texas. So.
Yeah, our offices, we're actually up in Minneapolis, we're in Atlanta, we're all throughout Texas, and we're moving into Denver right now. We don't have an office in Detroit just because of the, as I'm sure you're more than familiar with, the completely lopsided supply-demand equation that you're dealing with in terms of your real estate.
Lopsided, although it is, well, I mean, you can certainly get a lot of value in Detroit, can't you?
Oh, a ton of value. What I mean by that is you have an inner city, a city that's been built up around those massive corporations like the GMs that were once there that drew in tons and tons of employment, and now the employment's not there. And so it's hard. It's a huge upside potential in Detroit, but that has to be counterbalanced with some hedge in terms of long-term stable growth that has cash flow presently as well. So I like Detroit. I like there's a lot of very interesting things that a kind of market like that forces out. Some of it is the foreign investment that we're talking about here today.
So when you go talk about Atlanta and Minneapolis and you're buying undervalued real estate, are you buying it in bulk? How exactly do you go about doing this?
So some of it is purchased in bulk, but the overwhelming majority is done in a one-off manner. It's just that we have a tremendous motor function tool that we put out there through our agents and our proprietary software and technology that allows us to be more efficient, faster, better, and to fish with a bigger net, so to speak.
And you're essentially buying these houses just in cash, then?
Yeah, well, yes. All of them are in cash. We don't use notes. We don't use hard money loans. We purchase them in cash. Our investors, in turn, then buy them with notes and sometimes with loans, but sometimes cash as well.
So how profitable is this kind of investment now for the Chinese and other foreign investors?
So most of the properties that you're going to see in the marketplace today, depending on where you're at, are going to be what we call 70 to 80 cents on the dollar. In other words, if you have a house that's worth $100,000, you should be able to buy that house and fix it and be into it for somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000. Have significant spread there in terms of your efficiency for profit margin as well as some cash flow there.
Okay, I'm sorry. So in terms of the profit margin, you said 70 to 80%, or did I hear that right?
No, you're in a house for 70. Let's say you're in a house for $80,000. It's worth $100,000, so that's $20,000. So you're just over 25%. Equity spread on your $80,000.
I mean, that's a whole involvement, though. You have to get in there, fix the house. You're involved in that entire process?
We are not involved in the process of fixing the property. The investor takes control of the rehab. We do support them through the process. In other words, they're welcome to call us, double-check rehab numbers, make sure they're not being taken advantage of, make sure that the contractor is doing the work properly. And we work with all levels of investors, from very new green investors who need that level of help to as they get more sophisticated, they have their own crews. They really are just looking for properties.
So the fact that the Chinese are now involved, they've purchased $8.2 billion worth of U.S. property in 2012, gets attention. But from what you're seeing, are they the primary foreign nationals buying property in the U.S.?
I would say they're one of the larger groups. I mean, you have some areas of the country that, or some other countries, I should say, that are very interested in our country as investment. For whatever reason, you have Australia is a huge country that invests in U.S. real estate over the last 5 to 10 years. China, though, is one of the wealthier nations. They've always held a tremendous amount of our debt, which automatically makes them interested in our economy. As well, they're a communist country, and they are not allowed to own the actual real estate, the dirt that underlies the houses that they own. This was up to the last year or so. They were allowed to buy property, but they didn't actually own the dirt. They only owned the structure, and as we know, the real value is in the land because you're not making any more of it. And now recently, the Chinese government has made it so that there is a limit now, not just on the fact that you can't own the property, but how many you can actually own in one name. They don't want people going around buying up multiple properties. So
wait, the Chinese government is limiting their own citizens?
Correct.
No kidding. Well, why is that?
Because they have seen, so China has seen a massive growth, and they've seen that growth slow recently, and it's kind of unsustainable. And I believe that they feel in part that a lot of it is from speculative, or some of it is from speculative investment in their own real estate. And so when you limit the transferability of that real estate, that demand is going to find its way to the surface. And as our world gets smaller and smaller, they're able to look at other countries for investment. And obviously, the United States is always very stable. There's low government risk.
It's siphoning away from their own market. But tell me this, should we be concerned as American citizens that there is so much foreign money buying up real estate here?
My personal opinion, no. I mean, I think that's, it's a little McCarthyist. I don't really think so. Do we want American real estate in the hands of Americans? I do believe so, but I don't think that anybody is buying so much real estate that we need to be concerned about kind of for lack of a better word, a hostile takeover via real estate.
Right. And so typically these properties are flipped for gain. They're not purchased and then kept by these foreigners?
I think you have a mix. So the foreign nationals from China that I work with directly, China is obviously different business culture. They start out very slowly. They want to build a relationship. They bought and sold one house, and they bought and sold two houses, and they bought and sold a couple houses, and then they'll entertain the idea, or at least from my perspective, then they'll entertain the idea of renting those properties, especially in your markets like Detroit and Texas. You talk to the Chinese, they're familiar with New York. They're familiar with Honolulu and LA and all that, but not as many people are familiar with, say, Detroit and Houston as inside the country.
Well, maybe we should make them more welcome. Mark Bloom, real estate expert. Find him online at networthrealtyusa.com. Mark, thank you for joining us on WILS.
Thank you for having me. You guys have a wonderful holiday in Detroit.
You also. Thanks.